Good to have you all with us again. Welcome to the October 2024 Connect OC Coalition meeting. So again, it's good to have you. My name is David. I am the networking coordinator for Connect OC. Connect OC is a program of Partners for Wellness with the Orange County Healthcare Agency. And our focus is promoting existing mental health resources to youth and young adults here in Orange County. There's a plethora of resources out there, but sometimes it's hard to know what's available. And our hope, our goal, our mission is to make those resources more widely known and more accessible to youth and adults and those who love and care for them and support them. So we're glad you all are here. I see lots of folks introducing themselves in the chat. Grateful for you doing that. If you wouldn't mind, if you just joined us, introduce yourself in the chat, name, if you're with a particular organization or school or wherever you may be coming from, feel free to include that information as well. And if you'd like folks to be able to contact you outside the meeting, feel free to include your contact information, although no expectation that you do. Again, my name is David. What we'll be doing a little bit of this morning is we're going to introduce some of the rest of the Connect OC team here in just a bit. And then I'm going to introduce you to our speaker for this morning, Toni Martinez from UCI. We're really excited to have her with us, and we're going to talk a little bit more, expanding on our previous meeting on mindfulness. So without further ado, I'll introduce or pass it on to the rest of the team to introduce themselves, and we'll go from there. So Crystal, maybe if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Yeah, thanks, David. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to all the Cal State Fullerton students I see on the call. So we're happy to have you here. We hope you enjoy our meeting and maybe join some future ones. So I'm Crystal Bleischer. I am the program director with Partners for Wellness and specifically overseeing our Connect OC project. Thanks.
And Sarah, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Chalice. I'm one of the outreach coordinators, specifically overseeing event coordination and planning. And I'll pass it to Joy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joy. I'm also an outreach coordinator. Yeah, so good to be here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Vivi Vu. I'm also one of the outreach coordinators, and I'm focused on social media networking. And I'll pass it to Erin.
Good morning, everyone. Erin O'Flaherty, I lead the Mental Health and Cultural Arts program for Partners for Wellness. I'm the community education manager, and great to see everybody.
Thanks, team. So without further ado, we've got a few things on the agenda this morning, but we start off with our speaker. We are going to be introducing, or we're going to be having speak for us this morning, Toni Martinez. She's going to be talking about mindfulness, kind of from the ground up. What is mindfulness? We hear of this term so much. Sometimes I think we start to lose the sense of what mindfulness is and what it can be, right? Because it's maybe a bit more than we sometimes think. And what does it look like to begin incorporating mindful practice into our day-to-day lives? And here I don't just mean meditating for 30 minutes in the morning, although that can be great. But I mean, what does it look like to take the things we're already doing in our day-to-day lives and approach them more mindfully? So without further ado, Toni, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself a little bit further to the group, and then we'll hand it off to you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Let me just share my screen here. So thanks, David, and hi, everybody, especially hi to the students. I work, as David mentioned, at UC Irvine at the Center for Student Wellness and Health Promotion. And I am certified in mindfulness-based stress reduction and talk a lot about mindfulness in both the clinical and the non-clinical setting, mostly to students. So I'm happy that everybody is here. Let's dive in as we go throughout the presentation. Even though we're on Zoom, it's always nice to connect. And so if you have a question, if you have a comment, please feel free to use the chat, throw me an emoji on Zoom, put in any questions, whatever it is that comes to you throughout the presentation. I'm happy to make this interactive as well. So David touched on this a little bit, but when I talk about mindfulness, especially to college students, Sometimes there are a lot of preconceived notions about it. And so our hope today is really to demystify, disentangle what mindfulness is, really what it can be, so you can walk away from this presentation with a new, fresh perspective. So it's, of course, appropriate, as always, before we talk about mindfulness, let's experience what mindfulness can be. So I assume that a lot of us are sitting at a desk, sitting down, and probably sitting at a desk for the majority of our week, if you're like me and you sit at a desk job. So hopefully the practice that we're about to do is something that you can carry with you while you're at work. Right? You don't need to go to a yoga studio or to a meditation room, an ashram, to practice mindfulness. We can do it right here at our desk. So let's do that. I'm going to invite everybody to just find a comfortable seat. We are going to do a little bit of movement. If you feel more comfortable with your camera off, then please honor that and really do what calls for you in this moment. And if you're going to join us in this practice, then I'm going to invite you to maybe uncross your legs if they're crossed. Plant both of your feet on the ground. Maybe that means you need to scoot a little forward like I do because I have short legs. And then you want to just feel that your shoulders are stacked directly over your hips as much as possible. And then the hands can be placed on your lap. They can be clasped. You can do one hand on your heart, the other hand on your belly. Just do whatever feels natural, what feels accessible to you in this moment. And then if it feels okay, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. If closing the eyes doesn't feel good today, no worries. Just shift your gaze downward at a spot that is unmoving. And then if your eyes are not closed, I'm also going to invite you to put your phone's screen down, minimize all your windows, just free of distractions as much as possible in our digital world. And then once we found that comfortable seat, let's just start our practice by taking a couple of cleansing breaths together. And whatever your breath retention, however your breath pace is totally fine. But see if you can just take a deep inhale through your nose like you are smelling a beautiful flower. And then on the exhale, open the mouth, allow the air to release. Imagine like you were fogging up an invisible mirror. So let's do that a couple more times. Big belly breaths here. Inhale, breathe in through your nose, nice and slow. And then open the mouth, exhale, just let everything go. One more round. Big inhale through the nose. Open the mouth, exhale, sigh it out. And as we continue this intentional breath, just begin to mentally let go of any planning, let go of any expectations of what this is supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing, anticipating the next moment. And let go of any ruminations about the past. Just see if you can allow the breath, those big inhales and exhales, to anchor you in the present moment. Anytime the mind starts wandering off, starts telling a story or making a plan, just come back to that breath And tap into the weight of the body. Bringing a softness to the body. Starting with the facial area, unclenching the jaw. Allow the tongue to be heavy in the mouth. Feel the shoulders heavy, grounding down. Feel really broad here in the collarbone, open in the heart space. Bring a softness to the chest, the belly. And then feel the hips sinking, melting, and supported by the chair beneath you. Coming back to that big belly breathing. And then from here, starting our mindful movement, first with the neck and the head, see what it feels like to tuck your chin to your chest. The chin doesn't have to touch the chest, but just see how that feels, being really curious. Feeling the stretch in the back body, the upper back. Allowing the shoulders to unshrug from the ears. Just feeling what it's like for the head to be completely heavy. And then on the next inhale, we're going to reverse that now. Slowly tilting the chin up towards the sky now. And then as far as feels comfortable, bring your gaze up towards the sky. Feel the throat opening, and then feel the stretch now in the front line of the body. Again, breathing in here. And then bringing the chin now back to a neutral position, level with the earth. And then let's bring our right ear to our right shoulder now. Again, not straining. If there's any discomfort, back off a little bit. And then here, allowing the right shoulder to be really heavy and the left shoulder to be really heavy. Big stretch on the left side of the neck. And notice if you're holding your breath without judgment, come back to that belly breathing. Switching sides now, bringing the left ear to the left shoulder. Feeling a stretch on the right side of the neck. Right shoulder heavy, left shoulder heavy. Being unconcerned with what this is supposed to look like, but just tapping into how it feels in our body. On the next breath, coming back now to neutral, let's tie that all together, a little breath to movement. Inhale, tuck the chin towards the chest. Exhale, bring the gaze up at the sky, open the throat. Inhale, come back to neutral. Exhale, right ear to right shoulder. Inhale, come back to a neutral position. Exhale, left ear to left shoulder. One more time now. Inhale, come back to that neutral position. Feel the settle in the body. Take a big inhale here. Exhale, Tuck the chin towards the chest. Inhale here. Exhale, open the throat. Gaze comes up towards the sky. Inhale, come back to neutral. Exhale, right ear to right shoulder. Heavy in the shoulders here, unshrug. Inhale, come back to neutral. Exhale, left ear to left shoulder. Inhale, come back to center. And then from here, just allow the neck to come into some neck rolls clockwise. So really the same movement that we just did, but a lot more fluid now. And again, let go of the ego, let go of what this looks like. Just focus on how it feels in the body. What your square looks like might be very different from your neighbor's, and that's okay. And then when you're ready, let's reverse it and go counterclockwise now with those neck rolls. Again, breathing deeply with intention. Completely let go of any tension in the neck. And then when you've had enough, come back to that neutral position now. And then from here, we're just going to do a couple of shoulder and arm stretches. So inhale, see what it feels like to shrug the shoulders up towards the ears. And then exhale, see what it feels like for the shoulders to completely fall and melt down. Do that 2 more times. Inhale, squeeze the shoulders up to the ears. Exhale, allow the shoulders to fall. 1 more time. Inhale, squeeze the shoulders up towards the ears. Exhale, unshrug the shoulders, allow them to melt. And then now inhale, sweep the arms up towards the sky. Imagine like you were squeezing a beach ball in your hands. Take a big inhale here. And then exhale, bring your arms level with the earth, like mummy arms. This is how I call them in my kids' yoga class. So in your mummy arms, we're just going to take a big breath here. Inhale. Exhale, keep the arms where they are, but again, let the shoulders melt. And then from here, we're going to goal post the arms 90 degrees in the elbows. And then exhale, mummy the arms again. And then inhale, sweep the arms up again, like you're squeezing a beach ball. And then from here, exhale, goal post the arms, opposite direction now. Inhale, sweep the arms up, squeeze that beach ball. Exhale, mummy the arms. From here, allow your left hand to come under your right upper arm. Bring the right arm to the left. Give yourself a little bit of an arm stretch. See how this feels in your right upper bicep, your right shoulder. And then if you want a little bit more, you can even look towards the right, feeling a stretch on the left neck again. Take a big breath here. Pull your shoulder and your arm towards your body. Inhale. Exhale, continue to squeeze that arm towards your body. And then let's switch sides now. This time, bring your right hand under your left upper arm. Bring your left arm to the right. And then if it feels okay, option to look to the left for that right neck stretch. Take a big inhale here. Exhale, squeeze that arm towards your body. Nice work. From here, bring your hands back to your thighs or wherever you had them. Come back totally to a neutral position. Check in with the body. And then from here, give yourself a handshake. So imagine like you were shaking hands with yourself, and you should see here in the screen if you need a demo. And then as you're shaking hands with yourself, allow your wrists to stretch by making a circle with the hands. Nice wrist stretch. If you're typing at a computer all day, your wrists will love this movement. And then from here, opposite direction now. Stretch in the wrist. Don't forget to breathe. Maybe the elbows move. That's okay. And then from here, bring both of your hands apart and then make fists with your hands. Squeeze your hands, squeeze that fist as much as you can. Inhale, and then exhale. Let the hands go like you were making a number 10, palms facing the computer. 2 more times. Inhale, squeeze the hands, squeeze the hands. Exhale, open up the hands, soften them. 1 more round. Inhale, squeeze the hands together as tight as you can. And then exhale, open the hands up towards the computer. When you're ready, bring the hands back to your thighs. And then just take a couple breaths here, closing down our physical practice. And then as we wrap up our mindful movement, just take a moment to check in with the body. How does the body feel after some movement, some tension release? Without judging yourself or telling yourself a story, just notice how the body might feel. And let's close our practice together as a community by just taking 1 round of breath together. Your biggest breath yet. First, let's actually start with that exhale. Let all the air go. Imagine like you were fogging up an invisible mirror. And then right away, big inhale through the nose, draw air in, breathe in. And then open your mouth, sigh it out, your biggest exhale of the day. And then when you're ready, blink open the eyes, come back to our space. Maybe turn on your cameras if you turn them off for that practice. Okay. So hopefully we were able to find some tension release. Anybody want to just pop in a word in the chat about how that practice was for them? Maybe just like 1 word. Doesn't have to be positive. Also, if you found that it was difficult, if you found that you were distracting, that's totally okay too. But let's see. Okay, Lisa, restorative. Thanks, Lisa. Refreshing. One word. How was that practice for you? Illuminating. Okay. So anybody else that wants to share, go ahead and I'll check in on that throughout the presentation. Calming. Thank you. I'm so glad. Relaxing. Yeah, so just keep any of these postures needed. I hear that in mind as we work throughout our day. Again, remember, we don't have to go to yoga class. We don't have to go somewhere specific. We can find a mindful moment really wherever we are. Okay. So I'm going to push forward, but thank you so much for that practice, sharing that practice with me and sharing how you felt in the chat. Okay, so a big question always is what is mindfulness, right? Is there a universal definition of mindfulness? Does it have to be something specific? Does it fit in a specific box? And really the answer is no. I think a mindfulness practice can be truly personal. If you are very spiritual, if you are very religious, I'm sure you can share in that as well as your own religion, your own spiritual practice, whatever your beliefs are very personal to you. The mindfulness practice can be the same, right? The definition, the working definition that I like to give that's pretty broad to folks is this one from John Kabat-Zinn, and it's paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. Really what we experienced was hopefully mindfulness for you. The part for me that stands out and is probably the most difficult is this idea of non-judgment. So mindfulness is paying attention to our thoughts, how are we feeling, but it's so normal to notice and then right away follow that noticing with a judgment. So the example that I like to give to students when I do this workshop is you might be sitting in class and you might notice that your tummy starts grumbling, right? And then the thought becomes, I'm hungry. Well, after that, the judgments usually just start pouring in, you know, oh, why didn't I make myself breakfast this morning? I'm so lazy. I'm not a good sleeper. What's wrong with me? Right? And they just happen sort of in a millisecond. And so the mindfulness moment would really just to notice my tummy is grumbling. I'm hungry, period. No judgments, no storytelling, right? Anything that follows after that, hopefully, right, won't be judgments. And if they are, and again, that's okay, then just notice that it's there and then come back to that feeling of I'm hungry, or come back to that first thought, right? That's a good way to sort of conceptualize this idea of non-judgment. Extremely, extremely hard. I just want to validate that. Okay, so this is where I'm gonna draw in a little audience participation, and we can either unmute or we can put in the chat. But I want you to take a moment to look at this image. And then if somebody, some brave soul can tell me, what do they see in this image? You can put it in the chat, you can unmute. What's going on here? Okay, thank you. So we have Lisa saying clarity versus clutter. Right. So one of them is having a really clear moment, right? And then another person or another individual, I'll say, has a lot of clutter happening, right? The person or the individual who's really clear, I should say the individual, is the dog. The dog is walking and just noticing the trees, noticing the sun. The person, right, is thinking about all this clutter, all this crap, right? What's the past? What's the future? Maybe what they're about to do. You'll notice the dog isn't thinking, I wish there was a cat. I wish there was a treat, right? Not wanting something to be different from the moment, but really just taking in the moment. And this is a really nice example of what mindfulness can be. So many of us walk from our front door to our car. Even if it's a 5 feet walk, take a minute to look up at the sky and just notice, is the sun out? What's the weather outside, right? What's happening with my neighbors, right? Just taking a mindful moment to look around. A lot of us, myself included, rush to the car. You're probably on your phone. You're thinking about the next thing you have to do, right? So next time you're walking, try to remember to be the dog in this image. Okay, so let's talk a little bit, just a quick primer about mindfulness, the emergence of mindfulness, especially when it comes to clinical applications of what mindfulness is now. So let's see here. Let me adjust my screen is a little bit. Okay. So folks probably know this, but mindfulness really emerged when there was a lot of evidence-based research behind it, right? And that happened in the sort of 90s, early 2000s. So right in the middle here, we see John Kabat-Zinn. He sort of brought mindfulness to the West in a secular way. He's the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction. I know he's super popular sort of in the mental health and the medical field. But the way that he brought mindfulness here made it evidence-based, made it accepted by insurance, right? He was able to manualize an 8-week program and really study it through randomized controlled trials with not just patients of mental health challenges and disorders, but folks with chronic pain, right? Folks who are going through really aggressive cancer, lots of really more severe clinical uses. John Kabat-Zinn applied to mindfulness, and they found out through all of this research, turns out that it works, right? Same thing here with Richie Davidson, also from the University of Massachusetts, did a lot of brain imaging, fMRIs, PET scans on monks who meditated regularly, right? So here he is going into a CT scan or maybe a PET scan, lots of nodes on his brain. And they found out really just the brain structure of folks who meditate was completely different than folks who didn't. So, you know, any neuroscience geeks out there can appreciate this, but just a couple of examples of how mindfulness can really rewire the brain. We can see here post-meditation, the prefrontal cortex is more active, is more connected, is more turned on. That's that cortical thinking, right? Our prefrontal cortex is our logic and our reasoning. So we can see that that definitely thickened after meditation. And then also here, the amygdala, that fight or flight response in our reptilian brain, is way less active after meditation as well. Okay, so again, once these brain scans started coming up, we really could see how mindfulness could impact the brain. This is also free from any other intervention, free from therapy, free from medication, anything else. This is truly just mindfulness practice alone. Pretty incredible how it can rewire and restructure our brains. Also, what they found, let's see here, is the research effects, so what folks reported, right? And specifically for students, I like to share this slide. A lot of students come to me and they tell me, you know, they're having problems remembering for their test, or they feel like they have a lot of test anxiety, or they're super reactive. Lots of ways that mindfulness has a positive benefit, positive outcomes for students as well. These are really just a few. I won't go over all of them. Okay, clinical practices. So lots of clinicians out here, I'm curious to know, and put it in the chat if any of you use mindfulness in your clinical or even your non-clinical practice. I'm in a non-clinical space and I use it all the time with students. But if you're using a specific modality, you might be familiar with some of these. We talked about MBSR. Another really popular one from Dan Siegel is mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, right? And then we have acceptance commitment therapy, kind of turning towards rather than away from something. And then, of course, good old DBT. Marsha Linehan uses a lot of mindfulness with a wise mind and those interventions. So mindfulness has definitely gotten found its way into the clinical world. And some folks are saying, yeah, ACT, DBT, it's truly so universal. And again, what's wonderful is it can be used with clients and folks with really severe depression, anxiety, right? It's not just this first line of defense, like woo-woo sort of intervention. We really know from the research that it can work. Okay. So now that we know mindfulness is effective and is really university accepted, you know, mental health and medicine in the medical field, how do we do it, right? Like, again, it's this idea that mindfulness is this perfectly still person with the lotus legs and a hand mudra, meditating for 30 minutes by a stream, right? And that's not true. There are so many ways that we can bring mindfulness into our everyday life. So as I mentioned, this is probably what we think of, right? And these are all images of what mindfulness definitely can be, right? Someone sitting in a formal practice, meditating. This is the alternate breathing exercise, right? Being at a yoga retreat, practicing yoga by the beach, like, sure, these are all mindfulness practices. Wouldn't it be great if we could also spend, you know, an hour a day, right, practicing mindfulness in this way? I know that I would definitely love it. But realistically, it just doesn't happen this way, right? We're not able to access, maybe we don't have time, we don't have the resources for our mindfulness practice to look like this. So our mindfulness practice can also look like all of these things, right? It can look like gardening. It can look like waiting in line. Yes, waiting in line at the DMV, right? Something really annoying, innocuous at times can be mindful. Taking a shower, right? Washing your hair, massaging the shampoo in, smelling the shampoo, noticing the warm water dripping down your back, right? If we go back to John Kabat-Zinn, he actually has an interview here with Oprah, and they talk about when Oprah is in the shower, she's not actually in the shower. She's at the meeting, right? She's with her family members. She's leading a meeting with her staff, right? Can you, when you're in the shower, I'm going to forward this a little bit, truly be in the shower in the moment? All of us probably take a shower at least once a day. And this is what I tell my students who are like, Toni, I don't have time for mindfulness practice. So I say, okay, when you're in the shower, can you just be in the shower? That can be your mindful moment, right? Again, gardening, sitting in traffic. So many of us probably commute, sit in that 405 traffic rather than gripping the steering wheel and just being like, oh, when am I going to get there? When am I going to get there? I'm so late, right? Allow yourself to feel the steering wheel on your hands, feel the shoulders unshrug, take a couple of deep breaths, maybe even notice, the person next to you. Notice what you're listening to on the radio, right? Rather than it just being background noise. Eating can also be really mindful. All of us probably eat at least once a day, right? Rather than just eating, shoving that food in your mouth and then going to the next thing, maybe just allowing the first 5 minutes of your meal to be mindful. That might look like looking at the food on your plate. What are the colors of the food? Where did this food come from? Who prepared this food, right? Eating it slowly, feeling the textures in your mouth, noticing the sensations. Just spend 5 minutes doing that, and then you can turn on your screen or meet up with your friends or do whatever. But just notice, how does it feel to do these things, but do them a little more mindfully? It won't feel like a lot maybe in the moment, but those 5 minutes add up over time. Standing in line at the DMV or sitting in traffic might feel more tolerable, might feel less annoying when we're going at it with this mindfulness approach. Anybody have a mindfulness practice that they do now that's, whether it be formal that looks like this or informal that looks like this? Put it in the chat or feel free to
I took a
unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, I took a class once on mindfulness, and one way she said like to implement it into your life is like when you're washing your hands to just kind of just notice like the water and take your time when you're washing your hands. Like don't just like rush the process, but just be in the moment you're doing that. And it's something that we do often, so you can kind of use that throughout your day.
Yeah, thanks, Joy. Totally. I used to give that example all the time during COVID when I would do these presentations because we were washing our hands like a million times a day for 20 seconds, right? So that's a great example. Planting your feet on the ground, slowly turning the water on, giving yourself a little hand massage while you're washing your hands, right? That's like a 1 minute, if that can be your mindful moment over and over again throughout your day. That's a great example. Other examples also is if you have a morning routine, which a lot of us might do, right? You make yourself a cup of coffee, you take the dog out for a walk, you get the kids up, whatever it is, your mornings probably look the same. That can be your mindfulness practice, right? It's that ritual, it's that routine that can be a little bit more mindfulness. Okay, Sarah just said, yeah, crafts, like journaling, painting, drawing. All of those things can be mindful. These are great shares. Thanks, everybody. Oh yeah, thanks, Terry. Yeah, calling things out in the present moment. I love that. So when you were on a virtual meeting, it is so tempting to be multitasking. Maybe you're doing it right now. Again, no judgment. That's okay, right? But just being really mindful of what's happening. Like even if you are choosing to multitask, let that be a mindful moment. Okay, I'm multitasking. I'm switching from window to window. I'm picking up my phone and then I'm typing, right? The idea of bringing mindfulness into our day-to-day life is just knowing what we're doing, turning off autopilot, even if it's the same routine every single day, just noticing, like I'm grabbing my cup, I'm taking a sip, I'm putting it down, right? I'm picking up my phone, I'm opening Instagram, right? How often do we open apps on our phone with a muscle memory of our thumbs, right? So just being really intentional, moving really slowly and mindfully throughout our day can bring more mindfulness to our overall life, right? And it can eventually become sort of a way of being rather than, okay, this is a mindfulness thing that I'm going to do today. Okay. So these are great shares. Yes, Lisa, I agree. Full Catastrophe Living. Excellent book, seminal piece. Okay, so just to recap as we wrap up is there are formal practices sort of and informal practices, right, to mindfulness. Our formal practice is what we just did at the top of this meeting, which is that mindful movement. There's seated meditation, walking meditation is also great. Specific breathing exercises, box breathing, alternate nostril breathing, lots of mindful movement like yoga and Tai Chi. Naming senses is also really nice, especially if it's a particularly anxious moment, to just be able to look and just name, okay, I can smell the grass. Okay, I can smell my coffee, right? I can touch this wooden table in front of me, right? Really grounding, really great for anxiety relief. Journaling, that's different from crafts, but I would say crafts is definitely a nice form of practice as well. Sewing, knitting, all great practices. And then of course, going on like a yoga retreat, silent retreat is great as well. And then really, again, the informal practices can make just as big of a difference. Noticing, how do you feel? When you walk into a meeting, can you just check in with yourself like, feeling a little anxious, or I'm in a good mood, right? Or I'm feeling irritable, right? Eating mindfully, noticing nature as you walk outside, again, being that dog in that image that we saw earlier, taking a shower, driving, washing your hands. Thank you for that example, Joy. So many ways that we can bring mindfulness into our daily life. And just remember that, you know, mindfulness, again, can look like this. It can look like the kids are tearing the house down or everyone at work is losing their mind. And you don't necessarily have to be sitting in lotus legs during that moment, but you can just visualize yourself in that moment, taking deep breaths, right? Even though everything around you is chaotic, can you feel your sits bones on the chair? Can you feel your desk in front of you, right? Just little moments in chaos that we can find mindfulness can really help these moments, right? And again, it's really not about a 10-minute practice every single day. Sure, that's great. But if we can make the intention, if we can notice everything that we're doing throughout that day, then eventually mindfulness just becomes a way of being rather than one specific practice. So really that is the end of the mindfulness presentation. I hope that you took away maybe some new ways or a fresh perspective on what mindfulness practice can look like, can certainly feel like. These are some of my favorite resources. If you are a student, just know that Headspace does give all students with a .edu email a discounted annual membership. I think it's like $70 versus the $120. Calm is really great as well. And then you can always just go on good old YouTube, Google like mindful yoga, right? or mindful meditation or breathing exercise or whatever it is. And then where I did my training, and a lot of the meditations that I offer are from UCSD Center for Mindfulness. So that is the resource that I like to give the most, and they're all free, just listed on the guided meditations there. So thank you so much, everybody. Here's my email if you want to connect with me, but so much gratitude for you all. Please reach out if you have any questions or want to talk any more about mindfulness.
Thank you, Toni. That was fantastic. Yeah. Well, let's just open up real quick. Let me just say, any questions anybody else has, any other reflections or things you've noticed throughout the presentation, your experience of it, if you'd like to add, feel free to share them in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself and say them as well.
Lisa, where's Lisa? I'm curious, did you do MBSR if you read Full Catastrophe Living? And you can put it in the chat too if you want.
I actually, I didn't participate in the MBSR, but my sister was struggling with cancer diagnosis at the time. And so I found John Kabat-Zinn's Full Catastrophe Living book to be very helpful in just helping me navigate that journey personally. And I have taken, it was a few years back, but I had taken also the MBSR. It was just like a one-day training with somebody out here. They came out to Orange County to do that. So just being really mindful of it and appreciating that breath is something that you can take with you everywhere. So, so it was a really good book.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Again, thank you, Toni. Thank you, everyone, for joining in and participating. We've got some other stuff we're definitely going to still be doing as part of the meeting, but as we wrap up this part, I see Michelle. Let's see. Michelle says, thank you. Yes, we can turn any experience into mindfulness with breath work. Yeah. As we breathe out longer than we breathe in, we can emotionally regulate any time. In love for 5 seconds. In love for 5 seconds. Out fear for 7 seconds. 3 times resets our minds to homeostasis. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, there's so many different ways, to your point, Toni, throughout the presentation of becoming more mindfully aware, right? I was thinking about the definition at the beginning, right? This idea that mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment, right? And there's what I took away from the training is there's so many ways to arrive at that way of living, at that way of being, whether it's the formal practices we think of, or the specific practices of a particular approach to therapy, or the practices of a faith tradition, or whatever it might be, or just the ways we approach our day-to-day lives. I was thinking about a couple experiences for me. One is in my faith tradition, we have a meditative practice called the Jesus Prayer. And a lot of times will just practice that quietly when I'm waiting in line, especially if I notice the tinge of boredom popping up in the back of my mind, saying, that little feeling. For me, it shows up in my head that says, oh, this is awful. Oh, I don't like to be bored. Oh, I don't want to wait in line. And then I just find myself turning to that practice and able to ground, able to stay in the moment, and also able to pass some boredom, pass some time a little bit. I was also thinking about this experience I had some time ago. I took a woodworking class one time at a community college, and just being at the sander, they had a power sander, and just being there and sanding a piece of wood that I was working with for maybe 5 minutes or so. I was in that moment able to be just so connected to the present moment. My mind was clear in a way I hadn't really experienced it too much before that. So there's just so many ways that we can arrive at this experience. And to your point, the more we do it, the more it becomes our norm, it becomes our standard, it becomes a kind of default place, which is pretty good to be. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you again, Toni. Thank you, everyone, for your participation in the presentation portion. We're going to switch over to some of the rest of what we have on our agenda. The first thing we will switch over to is just some updates for us, for Connect-OC. I'll pass it over to my colleague Sarah in just a bit, but first, I have a bit of an update myself. Some of you may have seen it in the email, but if you did not, I'm concluding my time with Partners for Wellness and Connect-OC to focus on, I'm also an associate marriage and family therapist, so I'm going to be focusing on completing my hours towards licensure. So I'm stepping away from this role to lean into that a bit, but I am so very grateful to our whole team, to our counterparts at the healthcare agency, and to all of you, and to everybody I've had the opportunity to work with through this this program for the last, almost 5 years. And so it is bittersweet, but I did mention in the message, and I'll put it back in again, if anybody would like to stay connected with me, I welcome that. You can reach me. I have a dpattison@gmail.com. It should be further up when I introduced myself, but maybe I'll put it back in. And thank you all again for the opportunity to participate and connect with you all for the last several years. So that's that. I'll pass it on to Sarah.
Thanks, David. Thank you, Toni, for the really awesome presentation, the mindfulness exercise. I feel like I really needed that. I have I just having a busy day today. So it was nice to stop thinking about everything that needed to be done and just actually enjoy some mindfulness and stillness in the moment. So I'm actually gonna pass it off to Erin. She's gonna talk about our Art of Valor event coming up soon.
Hi, everyone. Yes, as we're getting close to Veterans Day next month, we've been partnering with a lot of wonderful veterans organizations, and I'm excited to share with you our Art of Valor event, which will be on November 1st at the American Legion in Newport Beach. This is a free event for veterans in the community and their families, and over the last few months, we've been working with veterans to create art pieces, and there'll be an exhibition. We have music and food and great speakers. And so I will try to put the QR code to sign up in the chat, and then you can always reach out to any of us at Connect-OC. We can share more info, and my info is farther up the page. And also in that line, Coastline College is having a presentation of Inside Out, and it's a mental health for veterans event on October 25th, and which is also free. And so I hope that you can share that with veterans and your families as well. And finally, we're partnering with Cypress College on November 9th for their Veterans Family Carnival. So a lot of good opportunities out there. And I just want to say to David, it's been such a pleasure working with you. We're going to miss you so much. And you've accomplished so many great things. So definitely look forward to keeping in touch with you, and congratulations on your new career as well.
Thanks, Erin. I think that's pretty much all of our program updates. And I guess I'll open it up to any of you. If you have any updates that you want to share with the rest of the crew, feel free to unmute yourself. And share any awesome opportunities that you have.
Hi, it's Michelle Heiberg. I threw it in chat. We're trying to get our 6-week. We guarantee shifted mindsets if you do our Gratitude 101, which is 6 weeks. But we realize that's a huge time commitment if people are a little scared of it. So we're doing an Intro to Gratitude 101 on 10/19, 3 classes, all ages. And then on 10/22, we're working on parents who are dealing with bullying. I'm partnering with the CEO of the Ability Awareness Project. She's been doing anti-bullying workshops for 12 years. So she and I are going to lead one just for mothers about gratitude for healing to help their children who are dealing with bullying, and to help the parents too, because we're finding the parents are a big factor in the mental wellness of the children, of course. So I threw that I threw the flyer in. We'll always scholarship all students. We just made a low price of 33 because we're giving everyone journals and cognitive behavioral tools, and we're renting the space. So, but we always welcome and will scholarship all youth up to 25, as well as, we always help veterans too. They're in our mission. So any veterans too are welcome, complimentary for us. Just want to share that. Thank you. Thank you for all your work. We'll miss you, David. I can't wait to see you pop into our Zoom meetings as a surprise.
He's gonna be one of our presenters. Anybody else want to share anything?
Hi, this is Terry Steele from Ready Set OC. I just put in the chat, there's an outlet San Clemente extravaganza. And with David saying that he's moving to the next level of his career, I just remember the startup of many of the nonprofits that are participating at this event benefited from his work through the years. So if you guys aren't doing anything tomorrow, you can learn a lot about some of the nonprofits serving South Orange County at this event. It's a fundraiser. And if you go down the list, you'll see Community Outreach Alliance, Working Wardrobes, and Billy's, many others. But I put that in. And of course, Ready Set OC will be at the COA table.
Cool. Thanks, Terry. That sounds really fun.
Oh, you're welcome. And on that note, also, I'd reached out to Sarah because with Ready Set OC, we have participants that are looking for soft skills workshops and communication. And similar to when I was developing the Aim High program, is we're going to be offering programs that are available that are presented by other organizations. So if any organizations have workshops that are virtual that we could offer to our hundreds of participants throughout Orange County, that would be very useful. So I can put my email in there, and if you guys offer any workshops and you can provide that information, we'll promote it to our participants.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Well, if we don't have any other partner updates, just wanted to say thank you, David, for all your work with the coalition, and everything that you've done, and truly have taught me so many things, just how to be in this community, in this field. Yeah, I think I'll be officially the oldest one on the team besides Crystal now. So, yay. But yeah, thank you for everything. And I look forward to seeing how you impact our community in the future. Yeah, but without any other updates, our next meeting will be November 8th at 10 a.m. And we hope to see you there. If you haven't done the survey, which is in the chat, please do so before you leave. And yeah, we'll have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.